we go. Welcome to the Love Shovel podcast. This is going to be episode 4. This is post St. Paddy's Day. St. Paddy's Day being the day that is most notorious for a lot of people to have an excuse to get drunk, which honestly, every other Tuesday, any day, it's 5:30 somewhere. It doesn't matter. But this is going to be the Intoxication Stories podcast where, myself, Rage This, as your host, is here with guest Techo.
What's up?
And we're going to be telling some of our stories. You can determine if it's true, false, whatever you want it to be. But these are things that we're going to be talking about. Determine it yourself, and we can go from there. So with that said and done, what's it called?
I think I should start.
Yeah.
Just purely out of the fact that I know that my stories are interesting, to say the least. They don't have the craziest turnarounds, if you know what I'm saying. But here's what I'm gonna start with.
Hey, you know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying? So, essentially for me, right?
Yeah.
And intoxication, right? Anything. So for me, I haven't really gone anything past like different weeds, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Different types of weed, because there's plenty of them.
Well, there's a shit ton of strands. So yeah, I mean, I can completely understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's some hardcore stuff. You know what I mean? That's like super fun, apparently.
Well, I memean, let's actually digress a little bit from that. If we're going to be talking about weed, dude, I've sat there, and I remember. I mean, this is digressing just a little bit, but I remember when I first smoked weed.
Yeah. And
when I first smoked weed, compared to what it is now, it's like the shit that I smoked when I was young was like. It was some crazy shit. Now it's considered some pussy ass shit. You know? So I'm just like, holy fuck, man. But yeah, so back to what you were saying. Go for it.
Yeah, but basically for me, right, like the reason why I had experience with weed, honestly, because it grew like in backyard type of stuff, because I'm originally from Middle Asia. So back over there, weed is pretty common in terms of where it grows. So I've had quite a few experiences. Drinking is pretty much open, right? My family was really cool with it. They weren't like, suppressing me or trying to hide me away from it. But at the same time, they were very cautious. So I have this one story of me. So essentially, I'm gonna preface this by saying that I can carry my liquor really well.
Okay.
And I'm guessing that's because I'm Russian and German. Like pieces of me are Russian and German as well. So I'm a huge mix. But we were drinking, I believe it was beer at one point. Me and my uncle, we went out on this trip, fishing trip in the middle of like nowhere. Super quiet, beautiful night. All you hear is the water. The water was like murky as hell. You can't see nothing in the water. So we weren't trying to do anything else. And then all of a sudden he goes back to the car, pulls out a couple cases, brings them. He starts drinking. And
okay.
at one point, he just kind of looked at me, and he realized that I wasn't doing anything at the time. By the way, I'm like 7, so I'm not even like what I mean, nowhere near me actually holding any liquor. But he starts giving me a bottle, right? So I said, okay, cool, no problem. We doing this. I drank one bottle. He drank one bottle, then 2, then 3. Before you know it, we went through 4 cases of beer. Each case had I think those cases were like a little bit different, the way the beer is made over there. They had like 12 in each, I believe, something like that. So they're not like 6-packs, but they're like the glass bottles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we basically went through so much, and I remember maybe 4 or 5 times getting up to go pee because you're just full. You're just full of it.
Well, I mean, alcohol being a diuretic, yeah.
Yeah, for some reason, it's just like, I don't remember me actually feeling drunk until one of the last bottles, right? And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. It started hurting my neck. I was just so out of it. I started losing focus in my eyes. And then legitimately, I blacked out.
Wow.
I don't remember anything past that.
Wow.
Right? So for me, I have no idea what happened. He says we drank more. I, I wouldn't know. You know what I mean? I don't remember. But yeah, basically we came from that fishing trip, kind of bonded over some cases.
Well, I mean that brings up that whole point that a lot of people look at fishing as okay, I'm not going to say a lot of people, but I've seen fishing more as a drinking ordeal. Just like some people, like I remember some coworkers of mine, they were like, "Yeah, man, we went golfing last weekend." I was like, "Really? Golfing? Yeah, golfing with 4 bottles of Crown." I was like, "What the fuck? That's not golfing. It's more like how to get sauced."
Yeah, like they're just basically picking a different environment to do it in.
Yeah, yeah. So it kind of throws me off a bit, you know. But yeah, I hear you. All right, so I guess we're due. When you came to, had you already fallen asleep? It was like the next day.
Yeah, so I honestly don't even remember like waking up or anything. I just remember me sitting in the car and just like looking out the window and like, what the heck just happened?
Did you have like a nasty hangover?
No, so I don't remember any hangover at all from that
Wow.
time. So ever since then, I've always held my liquor. So
Okay.
it would take me like 6-7 shots of like straight up vodka, like some hardcore stuff.
Ooh.
And then I'm just like, you know what? This is not profitable. You know what I mean? I'm losing money
Right.
trying to get drunk. So just at one point, I just stopped drinking. I think I was like 14 or something. And I was just like, all right, no more. It doesn't make sense. It would just literally be not profitable. And every time I try it, it will be more like, okay, I'll just join in for this one shot, just because.
Okay. So then I got a question for you then.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of this liquor? It's a whiskey, okay, called Black Cock.
No. But
no joke. No, it's a whiskey called Black Cock. A black rooster. I think a black rooster is actually on it.
No way.
Yeah,
I mean, I would expect it. I don't expect there to be a dildo.
It's yeah. So
Wait,
there.
Before I Google this, let me go private window.
No, it's no. It just look up the Black Cock alcohol, and the first thing that comes up, it's a Thai whiskey called Black Cock.
From Thailand type of thing?
Yeah, from Thailand.
All right, cool.
It's 40% alcohol by volume. God. So it's not too hardcore, dude. It's only 80 proof.
But still.
I mean, 40% is still 40%. I mean, a beer is what, like, out here, at least out here in the States, I think it's like it has to be under 7% to be considered a beer. Anything above 7% is not a beer.
Yeah. But
so
back in that story, right, it was something like probably like a 12%, 14% alcohol.
Okay, because I mean, once you start getting up in that range, some of it is actually seen as a as almost like a wine, like a hard wine, because I think wines can get up to 12%.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. But like for me, I don't know.
But I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, I'm just riddling off some random facts that I'm not 100% sure are even still facts. You know, like this is something that I'm trying to recall from something my dad said, because my dad was into like homebrew for a little while.
Yeah.
And he used to be really into it back when he was in college, like millennia ago. So, but yeah, okay. So let's see.
What about you?
What about me? I'm trying to think when the first time I got drunk was, because when I was growing up, you know, you had that dad that offered you the beer, you know, and he just says, fuck it, you know, go ahead and try the shit. And he lets me try some of it. And I'm like, fuck, this is like soap water. Fuck this. You know, I remember that shit when I was like super young. And then now I'm looking at it, you know, and I'm still not a huge fan of like your standard beer. Like Corona to me is basically water. You know, you're going to try some like IPA. It's like, why am I going to drink an IPA? It's bitter, you know, stupid shit like that. So, but now I look at it and I want to say the first time I legitimately got drunk, it wasn't like super piss drunk, because it was kind of a mixture of drinking alcohol and smoking weed at the time. Which I was told by someone when I did it, that they're like, well, if you smoke and drink at the same time, it actually amplifies the effects of both by about 33%.
Wow.
Now, how believable that is, I do believe it, because like I vape currently, and you know, I do it mainly for the nicotine because I have no sense of smell. And since I have no sense of smell, you know, all these different wacky flavors they're making for this shit, no matter if it's like something as simple as like vanilla to like toasted marshmallow with a side of wheatgrass, I don't fucking know. You know, I can't taste or smell any of this.
Yeah.
So with that being said, so I'm at a party after my actually was it after? Yeah, it was after me and my very first girlfriend broke up, dude. And I was in the fucking doghouse, dude. Like I felt like shit. And I went over to this party and I just threw caution to the wind and said, "Fuck it. I'm going to drink and I'm going to smoke." So I did for the first time in my life to try and take my mind off of all this shit. And when I did it, next thing you know, dude, like it's not a blur. I do remember quite a bit of it, maybe not super vividly, but I do remember quite a bit of it. And the biggest thing with me, just like most people that you hear these stories about being drunk, is the filter starts coming off, and the thought process in regard to going back and forth in the decision making goes out the window.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. So there was this girl at the party, who ironically, if I'm correct, at that time was my friend's ex. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember what order this goes in right now in my head. Actually, no, I think I remember. Okay, no. There's this girl. Second girl I started dating in my life. And yeah, I'm a pansy, dude. I didn't start dating till after I graduated high school.
That's all good.
But yeah, so second girl I ever started dating. I was at this party. I was drunk. I was probably high, but not like high off my ass and not drunk off my ass. But I mean, I was loaded. And there was this girl that was there, and she was this exotic mix, dude. She was like half Spanish, half Filipino.
Ooh, okay.
Now, when I say Spanish, I mean like her mom was from Spain, Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, and half Filipino. Her dad's from the Philippines, and it was an exotic freaking like, just this really exotic mix, dude. And I'm gonna withhold her name for the sake of herself and me, I guess. But yeah, so she was an awesome girl. Like she had her own shortcomings, but I mean, who doesn't? And I just remember, like after I kind of got there, I was like chatting with her, and then I basically just was like, "Hey, you know what?" And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "It's like this shit from a movie, dude." I was like, "We should make out." And she was like, okay. So the next thing you know, we start making out, and I'm like, "What the fuck?" I was like, how the fuck did this work out? So so awesome. I'm inebriated, I'm intoxicated, and all of a sudden I'm making out. It was like a positive story, right? I mean, shit goes haywire months down the road, but yeah. So that was
crazy, man.
Dude, awesome. that was a fun time. I'm not gonna lie. And don't get me wrong, the same or a similar party in the same house ended up with a similar result more than once.
Interesting.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
So is it the house?
I don't know. I don't know if maybe they had that like that voodoo love weed going on or what, dude. But I just, that's what I remember, man. It's like, you know, we dated for a little bit, it went south, and you know, we split ways and did our own thing after that.
Yeah. Oh, hey, I mean, it was a cool experience, right?
Right?
That sounds like one of those stories that's just like, yeah, like you said, it's out of a movie essentially.
Almost, man. Like that's what it almost feels like. What about you? You got another one?
So a lot of my drinking, whenever I did actually get drunk enough, it
Yeah.
would end up in blackouts, right?
Okay.
But I think there was this one time that I very vividly remember. So back home in the country, we had what's it called? I guess like almost like a vineyard, but not like not what you picture in like Italy or something, right?
Sure.
It's more like small scale kind of thing, like on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
side of
yeah.
the house.
Like a little thing in the country that's more just some people making their own wine kind of ordeal.
Yeah, exactly. So we had a bunch of grape trees and all that stuff. So we had different types of grape trees, and I remember climbing on this grape tree. I think it's called. It's like golden something. So they're green grapes, but they have like a golden look to it.
Okay.
And I remember
Okay.
climbing on it, right, and hitting a blunt that I literally just dried from a tree that grows in the backyard of my house, between me and my neighbor. Right, so we both knew about this, but we didn't tell our parents and all the people that lived in the houses because obviously, you know what I'm saying. It's free weed.
Of course.
Um, so we weren't trying to cultivate it, but we took it whenever it came, and we just started kind of enjoying that. So I climbed up on there, hit a blunt, and back home, New York is wonderful. However, there's a lot of pollution. You can't see squat in the sky.
Sure.
If you think you see stars, it's probably, I don't know, some plane flying by.
Yeah, I wouldn't know.
Stuff.
I've never been out there, so I can't really speak on it.
But I feel like a lot of cities are like that. When you go out to like suburbs or something, you could actually see the sky and enjoy the night.
Sure,
And
sure.
back home, like over there, it's like the sky is closer. That's how it felt. It felt like the stars were closer, the moon
Yeah,
was closer.
yeah. That's like going out to the countryside.
Yeah, so I'm there. I climbed up on it. I kind of laid down on the grape tree and kind of like made a bed at the top. And I'm looking at the stars just slowly hitting this blunt. And legitimately, all I remember was the moon getting super, super close, right? To a point where like I felt like I could touch it. Right. So obviously I was just high out of my mind. But I swear to everything, I could touch the moon in that moment. Right. And I kept reaching out. And all I remember is just me kind of picking up my hand once in a while, just trying to reach out for it. And legitimately woke up the next day in the morning on top of the grapes with my aunt yelling at me of why am I sitting up there and all this stuff.
It's
And
like, why are you sitting up there with your hands raised to the air?
No, but like I knocked out, right, at one point.
Yeah.
So then when she woke me up, I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I think I was on the moon, and like all this stuff. And then, kind of getting up, I realized it was like there was like a half burnt blunt next to me, and I'm just.
I
like,
mean,
oh,
you were on the moon, man.
Yeah, like essentially, So I was high, literally high, on a different planet kind of thing. So
Wow.
that was a fun experience. It's funny because anytime somebody mentions weed, I remember that very vividly.
Yeah,
So
one thing I've always found kind of interesting, and I mean, you can agree to or disagree to this, but most people say that a lot of people when they smoke weed, and now of course a little bit less nowadays, just because it's getting so common, is weed experience usually a lot of weed experiences usually associate with paranoia, like a certain level of anxiety and paranoia because of like cops and stuff. That's why when people do it, they try to do it in safe places.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. And I look at it and I'm like, that's your internal morale telling you of something that you've known that's been blasted by media or whatever to be wrong. And that's what your body is telling you at that point.
Yeah. No,
You
that's
know?
true. And like I feel like, obviously, if you know anything about like the brain, it essentially works on just chemicals.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever a chemical is released, you feel good or you feel bad or whatever. And what weed essentially does is that it amplifies the effects of the good feel.
Well, that's every drug.
In your brain.
To be completely honest, that's what most drugs
Yeah.
are. Period. End of story.
Yeah.
You know, but now the other effects, everything has other effects. Like there's usually numbing on certain areas. There's overproduction of other things. so on and so forth. But yeah, okay. So hanging out in the tree and then all of a sudden being on a moon. That's
essentially, yeah. So that was fun.
That's something else, man.
Yeah. So
that's some out of this world kind of blunt you smoke.
Yeah, but I think that's the only time that I've really like. I don't know what happened. I don't know why. That was the only time that stood out to me. I feel like every other time was kind of normal. You know, you kind of get that buzz, but you don't really, you know, it didn't take me to the moon, if you know what I'm saying. So this time it did, and you know, I guess whatever I did that time is different. But yeah, what about you? Like, what's your experience with it?
With weed?
Yeah.
Oh man, I got a few stories, to be honest. I got a few stories. So, I can't say I remember the absolute first time I smoked weed. Maybe just because it wasn't a memorable time. But one of my first interesting stories of smoking weed. So I was working in the restaurant industry at the time, and there was a couple people out there, and I started, you know, and they knew I smoked a little bit of weed, but I didn't smoke much, and they wanted me to have a sesh with them in the car, and one of them was like a high functioning weed smoker, which I will tell people right now, I am not a high functioning weed smoker. And I basically, like, when I smoke weed, I'm an incapacitated, like, basically potato. And yeah, dude, and it sucks sometimes. I mean, it's cool, but to me, smoking weed is like planning for a party. You know, you're like, when you plan to go to someone's party, you're planning to cut out a chunk of time to go and enjoy yourself with no other engagements.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that's why I'm saying it's like going to a party, man. I got to do this without thinking. I got to do this without plans. I got to do this without anything that I know is going to interrupt it. You know, for at least 4 to 6 hours. So, yeah, go ahead.
No, that makes sense.
So I get off of work. It's like the butt crack of the night, right? Because I was working restaurant industry at the time. We closed at like 2 a.m. and so, or like 1, it's actually about 1:30, but we didn't clock out till around close to 2 because of cleanup and all that shit. So I'm just like, fuck it. So we're going through, we're doing our thing, and I get in the car with these 3 people, right? Like two of them are dudes, one's a chick. The chick and the driver, actually, I could say his name because not many people are going to know him anyway. At least I don't think so. Quiet kid. His name was Jake, and his nickname became Jake the Shake.
Jake the Shake.
Yeah, because he always had some shake on him, dude.
Really?
Yeah, dude. He was like a hardcore stoner, dude. That dude, like went upstate, and I'm not talking about upstate New York. He went upstate in California and came back with like one of those like 2 1-gallon freezer bags full of weed.
God damn.
And it doesn't cost much. I mean, very common up there, right? So I mean, I'm like, holy fuck. And this dude was like selling it. He was smoking it, but he wasn't really selling it to make a profit. So I found it kind of interesting. Well, next thing you know, like I'm in the car with this guy. Jake the Shake was dating this chick that was in there, and she was cute, but like she had her own issues. And then, and this other dude, ironically, the other dude's name was Jake as well, but we called him Jacob, and that's how we determined between Jake and Jake.
I'm done. That's not the shortened version of Jake.
No. Well, no, his name was Jacob, but the shortened version of Jacob is like Jake. So one of them was Jake, and the other one was Jacob, and he wanted to be called Jacoby.
Wow.
Hell if I know why, but he wanted to be called Jacoby.
Oh my god!
So it's Jake the Shake, Jacoby, and I think this chick named Ashley.
Okay.
And like, so we're up there. Like Jake the Shake had a bubbler in his car, like a little like personal handheld bubbler. You know, not some big old bubbler. And like we're literally driving through the fucking hills, just like taking the hill, you know, some of the hills roads in circles. and just smoking, dude. And I remember that thing getting passed by me time and time, and I'm hitting this thing a couple times, passing it, hitting it a couple times, passing it. And these dudes smoke me the fuck out, dude.
I'm done.
Like, I'm like to the point where like my whole body is fucking jello, and I'm leaning up against the window, practically drooling on it.
Yeah.
While these guys are having full-blown conversations, like, and I'm thinking we're lost as fuck up here.
Yeah.
And these guys are having full-blown conversations. They're emptying the bowl and repacking it and all this shit. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And then come to find out, like, all of a sudden we somehow made it back into town, and I got, like, and they went to go drop me off in my car. And I'm like, fuck, am I going to be able to do this?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I got it. So then I get out the car, and I could barely keep my hand, like my legs under me to walk. Like, I could sit down. I could sit hard as fuck. But to walk? Ah, fuck me. So I'm like literally almost like looking like a drunk dude, putting my hand on the back end of his car, you know, on his spoiler and shit. Like hand over hand while I'm using it like fucking like one of those safety railings. Just to get to my fucking car. And I get in my car and they're looking at me because they don't want me to get into an accident. They're like, are you good? Are you good? I can give you a ride home. I was like, nah, I'm good. So this story still ain't done, by the way. So next thing you know, I get in my car, start the thing up, and I'm just sitting in there trying to sober up for a second while the car's running. And I'm just like, oh, fuck, dude. This isn't going to be good. But fuck it, whatever. I mean, how else am I going to do this? So I basically head out. And I'm driving down the road, going home. And then I was like, fuck this shit. I ain't going to lie. I'm horny as fuck right now. And there was this chick who was like a fuck buddy at the time. And so I hit her up. And I'm like, hey, can I come through? She's like, yeah, sure. Where you at? And I was like, well, you know where I'm usually calling you from when I'm getting off of work. She goes, yeah, sure, whatever. And I was like, you want to stay on the phone too? I'm like, and she was like, okay. So she stays on the phone while I'm driving, right?
Yeah.
And well, actually rewind that back. I text her most of this shit. And then all of a sudden I was driving down the road and I could have sworn I missed my exit because I wanted to get some food. Yeah. And I was still like 3 exits out from it. I thought I'd been driving on the freeway forever. And I'm just like, nope, it's still coming up because, you know, I lived in the area my whole life. I was like, okay, it's still a ways out. Fuck it.
Yeah.
So then I get her on the phone because like we're texting and stuff. And she goes, well, I'm just calling to make sure you're okay because some of your texts are a little sporadic. And I'm just like, it's all good. No worries. And so I'm on the phone with her. And I was like having a mad munchie craving at the time. Like mad munchie craving.
Yeah.
And I just basically was like, fuck it. I need to get some food. So the one exit I needed to go to had a McDonald's on one side of the road and a Carl's Jr. or Hardee's for some people on the other side of the road.
Nice.
So I was like, fuck this shit. I'm hitting the dollar menu.
Yeah.
So I go through McDonald's. I get some shit off the dollar menu. I mean, at the time, it was the 2 apple pies for $1, you know, shit like that. So I grabbed some food. I know I had 2 apple pies off of that shit too. And then at the time, I don't know about like everywhere else, but where I'm at in California at the time, Carl's Jr. was doing like having these like crazy ass shakes, you know, like I think at the time it was a Captain Crunch milkshake.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So I'm like, this shit's fucking on point. Let me get a Captain Crunch milkshake to go with like my apple pies and my fucking McDoubles and all this other shit. So I'm going through the drive-thru still. I ordered this milkshake. I'm like 2 people back from like the window. And I'm like, fuck this. I want an apple pie right the fuck now. So I start going through the bag. And this whole time, right, this girl's on the phone with me. And next thing you know, I'm going through the bag and I'm like, where the fuck are my apple pies? Like, I'm thinking this to myself. I'm like, where the fuck are my apple pies? Like, I could have sworn I fucking bought some apple pies. Don't tell me this motherfucker forgot to pack my apple pies. And then all of a sudden, like snapping a finger, I start having an out-of-body experience. Like some shit from a motherfucking movie, out-of-body experience shit.
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden, I start, like, what's it called? Like, I start panning back. And as I start panning back, what's it called? As I start panning back, I see myself sitting in my car. And I'm, like, almost like a ghost, like, right? Like that ghost from Christmas Past or whatever, right? While you're looking at your own self go through something or other people, I'm watching myself as I continue to throw a 7-year-old tantrum in my car over some apple pies I don't have or I thought I didn't have.
I am done.
Like, no joke, like straight up, like road raging out, like smacking my fucking steering wheel, going, where the fuck are my motherfucking apple pies? This motherfucking shit is bullshit. I ordered some motherfucking apple pies. I paid for the motherfucking apple pies. I should have some motherfucking apple pies.
Yeah.
And I'm just like throwing this tantrum, and then all of a sudden, as my tantrum's coming to an end, I start zooming back in, and then boom, I'm in my body. And I'm dead quiet at this point, right? Right when I come from this out-of-body experience, I come into myself as if I didn't throw this tantrum, and I go dead quiet as if I'm just waiting for a milkshake. And this girl who's still on the phone with me,
yeah,
she's like, are you okay? I'm like, what do you mean am I okay? I'm fine. I mean, I'm acting like nothing happened because I thought it was all in my head.
Yeah.
And she's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah. Are you sure? I'm like, yeah, why? And she goes, well, I mean, you're acting kind of weird. I was like, okay, I got a question for you then. She's like, what? And I was like, did I just throw a 7-year-old tantrum screaming and shit, making all this noise looking for some apple pies? And she goes, yeah. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, officially mind blown, bro.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I thought I was watching myself do something that I wasn't really fucking doing, but apparently I was actually doing it.
Damn. That's crazy.
Yeah, dude, I was tripping about that shit.
So a literal out of body experience.
Like yeah, dude, it was crazy. I'm like, I don't know if that's like I was having a like 10 IQ combined with a 200 IQ moment, or if or if somehow my mind broke the fourth wall. You know?
Yeah, right. Basically.
Yeah, dude. It was insane, bro. And then like after that, grab the food, fucking pig out on my way to her place, get it in. You know, I think I wound up like taking a nap over there, jumping back in my car, and then heading home. Like the ending, not so much as the beginning was good.
I mean, hey, still though, like, you know what I mean? You got what you came for.
Right?
That's crazy. Man.
I mean, we were both consenting adults.
Yeah. I don't think you gotta say that. I don't think anybody's suspecting.
Nowadays, we have to, dude. I mean, with the way society's becoming, I mean, there's a condom out there. I forgot what the fuck the name of it is. Here, I'm gonna look this shit up right quick.
Does it tell you to get
consent? Condom that will take a what is it? Fingerprint.
No way.
Yeah, no joke. No. Okay, maybe it's only tested.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be a condom that pains.
No, I was overhearing that supposedly there's this condom, and I think it was like called, what's it called? The Consent Condom.
Yeah. So does it give paint? Like, does it put paint on your penis once you've given consent?
No. What it's supposed to do is basically like, I was overhearing this from someone, but I guess they were lying to me because I can't find it right now. But supposedly there's this one. There was this condom that like you actually take a fingerprint on the condom, which is their way of consenting to you.
That's insane. That sounds way too complicated.
Well, not necessarily. Like, you know, I mean, some people are into putting it on themselves. Some people are into, you know, the other person putting it on them.
Yeah, no,
but at the same time, was it there's this one condom over here I'm looking at. It's called Consent Condoms, and one of them says, "Let's talk about sex before we have it. Consent is never implied. Drinking is not a crime. Rape is." And the other one says, "Checklist, checkmark consent." You know, and I'm assuming the other one's checkmark condom. I mean, it's good, but no one's gonna read the fucking condom, bro. Like, let's get to it. Most people are just scrambling to get the thing that's in it out.
Yeah, just put it on.
Right? Like, let's just get to the realness of this. So yeah, man. What about you? Got any crazy high times experiences besides looking into the stars?
I guess besides the moon one, I don't remember much. I've had those long nights when you're just like chilling with people, like in the park or something. You get a little high, you know, you get something going.
Okay.
You have this like long ass conversation into like 2-3 a.m. kind of thing. You
okay.
wake up next day, have no idea what the heck you guys talked about. You probably talked about like how the dinosaurs died and why, and try to figure out the math on that. Like,
right.
Bull crap, you know. But that's pretty much it. Honestly, I don't think I've had too many colorful stories like that where it's done some crazy stuff to me. You know. Have you tried anything else besides, I guess, weed?
Honestly, no, I have not, and I think a lot of it has to do with more the mindset.
Yeah.
Like, my mindset is one, I'm not going to say of paranoia, but it's a mindset that isn't, I don't know. I'm not a very positive guy. I might talk positively, but my thought process is not a very positive thought process. So a lot of people say that when you take any type of illicit type drugs, you need to be in the right mindset for it. Okay. And I mean, and I've talked to people, they're like, yeah, you need to be like in a safe place and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, well, I mean, to me, a safe place is relative. It's a relative saying. It's not necessarily something that to me means much of anything.
I think when people say, you know, a safe place, I think they mean like, you know, you're not in an alley with some random guy that you're taking drugs with, you know?
Well, I guess, but I mean, but to me, it's like, I don't know, even if you're in your own house, you're technically not safe.
Well, yeah, you can definitely hurt yourself and stuff like that.
Well, yeah.
You know, I think that they imply something a little bit different, so that's why. But I can totally see it.
OG Doc Savage. What the fuck am I playing? I am actually not playing. I'm not playing anything. I'm just talking. But I have a video of a previous podcast of what I was playing in the background right now.
For real?
Yeah, dude. I was playing golf with your friends. I have that video on my screen while I'm talking.
Man, you should have let me know. That'd be really cool if we could just use my screen. Because I've been playing Battlefield for a little while.
Oh, I mean, we could have, but then it would have to be share screen off of Discord and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. So let's see. I think I got. Let's see. Do I have another story? Well, I remember this one time. I was this was when I pretty much came to the conclusion that I shouldn't be smoking weed thinking that it's really going to make me a better person. Because some people, weed will have a positive effect for them, and they'll be functioning or high functioning or whatever. And me, I'm just not a high functioning person. Like I said, like I stated before, I cannot smoke. I cannot smoke weed and be a high functioning person. So
I know Obvious just came into the chat.
Yeah. Welcome, Obvious.
You know,
thank you, gentlemen.
Stories.
Oh,
like being intoxicated, high, drunk, whatever.
Howdy doody, gentlemen.
Welcome to my life.
Wait, I think he's high right now.
Probably.
Oh man.
Howdy doody. That's all I can say. I hope you guys interpreted that, however you want to.
Interesting.
So this one time, I was still living with my folks at the time, and I was still working the restaurant industry, and I was like sitting there going like, I don't remember how much, I never got into the details of that shit. All of it. But I remember I woke up one day and I had a little pipe on me and I started smoking a bit. And I just took I don't know how many hits I took. I don't know how big the hits or how big the inhalation or if the bowl was fresh or if it was like half cashed or whatever. I don't know any of this shit. But what I do know is I smoked it and I had to work on my car that day. And I shit you not, dude, I had the easiest time working on my car and did not get fucking burnt out on it when I was sitting out there for like 3 hours straight looking at it. And I was like, holy fuck, what the hell's going on? So I was like, why the hell do I feel like I'm very concentrated right now? Like I was like super duper concentrated and I was like, what the fuck? So I started talking, like I had conversations with people that day, all this shit. And come to find out, I don't know what it was or what combination I had, but for some weird reason, dude, I was like somehow engaged in super retention mode. Okay. And like the conversations I was having with people, I was like retaining. I could like almost verbatim repeat back to you word for word what you just said. And it was insane, dude. Like just something about it. I was like, holy fuck. And I actually sat down and I got some homework done because I was going to college at the same time. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I'm actually understanding what the fuck this homework is. This is insane. Like, this shouldn't be possible. Like, this isn't me. Like, this isn't normal for me. So with all of that, all of a sudden I'm just like, okay, well now, I want to try and recreate this. So I tried recreating it time and time again, could never find it again. And then, one day, which this story doesn't have a positive ending. One day, because when I originally started smoking weed, my mentality was more like, hey, I want to smoke some to enjoy myself, enjoy times with friends. But it's something that I want to control. That's like, that's like anyone when they're getting into anything. You start drinking, it's something that you do because it's not something that you want to control you want to control it. I mean, everyone has control issues, or a level of control issue at where they want control in their life or they want someone who can help them control it themselves.
Yeah.
And I looked at it and I was like, fuck this shit. I want to control this. Yeah. And then one day, after waking up at my folks' house, middle of the day, because I used to work the graveyard shift, middle of the day, I wake up, and the first thing I did without thinking was pack a bowl, go out to the backyard, and light it up. Yeah. So I was starting to wake and bake, and that day, I looked at myself. I was like, why the fuck am I in the backyard? Why the fuck am I lighting this bowl? No, this is not good.
Yeah, this is me, yeah.
And that day I was like, I'll do it when I'm hanging out with friends, but I won't be holding anymore. Like if I need to chip in, I'll chip in, but I'm not going to hold, because if I'm holding it, I'll start doing it on a regular basis and it'll become an addiction, kind of like smoking is right now for me.
Yeah. So you still kind of have developed an addiction. So here's my question, right?
Yeah.
All I have to say
opportunity.
is these wings are delicious.
I'm done.
What wings are they?
Chicken
Wings of
wings.
an eagle.
Buffalo chicken wings.
Where are they from?
Teddy's Pizza?
So I have a question, right?
Huh.
So it's as someone who recognizes that they're addicted to smoking, right? What are you addicted to? Is it the nicotine or is it the pulling?
It's the habit. It's the habit I have because I've always had like I'm not gonna say an eating disorder, but I always had this thing where it's like it was kind of something of a routine and a habit that was built in my own head growing up, that when I was hungry, or whenever I felt hungry, or whenever I thought I was hungry, or whenever I thought I wanted to eat something, I would eat something. And then after I graduated high school, I had a job, and I could always have like candy, soda, whatever I wanted in my car, in my room, whatever. And it was always on hand. So it was that constant, munching on something.
Yeah.
So it went from the habit of munching on something to, I actually, tell you the truth, it went from the habit of munching on something to me having my accident and losing my sense of smell. And when I lost my sense of smell, I would have like these phantom ghost smells that would pop up. And when
your brain trying to make stuff up, right?
Yeah.
In the space.
Yeah, more or less. Like it's taking what my visual, like what some of my auditory is seeing, like my visual, my taste, stuff like that. And it's taking some of this and going, we need to put a smell to it.
Yeah.
So I would get random phantom smells. So even though this company doesn't exist because they got bought out and absorbed, the first thing I started smoking was Supernum branded clove cigarettes.
Ooh, okay, interesting.
And the Supernum brand, the one thing I liked about it was when I smoked it, it tastes like chocolate to me. I tried a couple other brands, but Supernum brand, it's tasted like chocolate. Like they had the standard and the darks, and the darks tasted like dark chocolate, and the standards tasted like regular chocolate. Yeah. And it wasn't like a heavy taste. It was kind of a subtle taste, but I could taste it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so that's how it began, and then I went away from it because I wasn't really inhaling. It's more like I was puffing.
Okay. Gotcha.
And then after that, I was like, okay, well, I need to do something. So then I just said, then I went away from doing that to filling it with like food and snacks and drinks and all this shit. And then I dated someone who did smoke cigarettes, and I kind of started going towards cigarettes. I went back to smoking cigarettes, but instead of clove cigarettes, regular cigarettes. And that replaced some of my, snacking habits. And I think that's another reason why a lot of people, when they quit smoking in general, they kind of gain weight, is because they need that they need that oral fixation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, this is the first time I'm hearing of this, so this is kind of cool.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's a totally viable thing. I mean, oral fixation is oral fixation, and not necessarily of the sexual type.
No, yeah. I wasn't going there, but I don't know about obvious, but obviously he was.
Shh.
No. He's like, shh. No. The wings taste good.
I already ate all the wings. Joke's on you, nerd.
I'm done. Are you finishing the bones now?
I already picked them clean.
God damn. Did you eat
So
the bones?
Suck the marrow out and everything. Yes, you're right.
There you go.
Damn.
Yes, sir, Bob.
Hey, bone marrow's tasty.
Yeah, man.
It is.
That's why you really eat wings.
So that's actually what it is when it comes to that. I mean, then of course what goes hand in hand with vaping or cigarettes, but not cloves, ironically, is the nicotine addiction.
Yeah.
Like nicotine addiction, I mean, so if I like try to quit cold turkey, I'm not gonna lie, I will probably or most likely be a giant fucking asshole for like for a while.
What?
I know. What makes it worse? What makes it worse is I already hate people as it is, and this will probably amplify it at least 3 to 5 fold. So, joke's on you.
Yeah, thanks. So,
but I do want to quit. I mean, because there's bad side effects to, nicotine. Obviously, potential lung cancer and emphysema and asthma and bad teeth and gums. And then you get vaping, which everyone's like, oh, it does popcorn lung, and it's true, but you need to understand what popcorn lung is before you could just go around throwing the phrase, I think.
Really? What is that? Because that's the first time I'm hearing.
Okay, so popcorn lung is actually it's named that because of people that used to work in popcorn manufacturing factories.
Okay.
So like they're manufacturing like popcorn, but it mainly comes from the burning of the oils to make the artificial butter.
Yeah.
So you have a vapor, you have a vapor running around, and what the vapor does, because you're looking at vegetable glycerin at this point, that's the vapor, which is one of the main ingredients of e-juice, e-liquid, vape juice, whatever you want to call it.
Douche juice.
Yes, juice.
I said douche juice.
Douche juice. No, that's douche clouds.
Well, the douche juice produces the douche clouds.
No. The douche juice with the douche making apparatus makes the douche clouds.
The douche with the douche apparatus uses the douche juice to make the douche clouds. That was a lot.
The douche with the douche is required to make the douche.
Wait,
Exactly.
are you guys high right now?
No, I'm not high. So with that being said, now the reason why they call it popcorn lung is the vegetable glycerin.
I don't believe you.
Right.
I
Right.
really don't believe you. Just based on what you just said, it sounds
I'm
like
about to say nudie muscle pictures with the chicken cooking in the background, alright?
Oh, do it. Do it.
Want those?
Do it.
Send me some of those.
Oh, okay.
Do it. That'd be on the Food Porn Network.
Oh wait, we're still on the podcast. Hold on.
Of course we're still on the podcast. So then what it is the vegetable glycerin is then vaporized, it's a fine mist in the air. You breathe it in, and what it does inside your lungs is it actually crystallizes around your areoli.
Oh snap!
Yeah.
Which is the inner part of the lung that helps transfer the oxygen. It's the
Yeah.
inside of the lung. Most people see the big lung pictures.
And it's not so much the big lung pictures, it's the inside. Yeah, you have these little sacs that look like, I mean, the easiest way to explain what they look like.
Grapes.
Yeah, premature grapes or just like figure grapes, but the grapes themselves almost look like the kind of cartoony beehive to a certain extent.
Okay, yeah. I can see that.
So the really small versions of that in clusters, and there's multiple clusters going around, and that's what allows oxygen to get into your bloodstream.
Yeah, they're like little pumps.
Basically. I mean, that's the easiest way to explain it. So what it does is the vegetable glycerin starts crystallizing around those things. Now, how long it takes for your lungs to bounce back from that, to fix itself, I don't know. No one knows. It hasn't been something that's been researched enough to really know the actual answer.
Yeah.
So
do you get that from vaping?
Oh, yes, you do.
Oh snap! Okay, so vaping isn't really good for you.
No. I mean, there's a lot of argument that vaping is better for you than the nicotine or not nicotine, but than your standard tobacco cigarette. you know, and I want to say the biggest difference between the vaping and the and like a cigarette. Let's take your standard cigarette. It doesn't matter what brand, but your standard cigarette. Okay, first off, you light the thing. You're going to see smoke coming up from it. There's an amber, so on and so forth. But if you pay close attention, there's actually blue smoke coming up from it as well.
Yeah. Okay, I've seen that. Yeah.
Do you know what blue smoke normally is?
No.
Burning oil.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So it's the same concept essentially.
It's more or less your burn. No. When I say burning oil, I mean this is like not vegetable glycerin oil. This is like oil.
Yeah.
Like some people think that the tobacco industry has, you know, other artificial stuff in it that isn't necessarily positive for you. You know, it's like saying I'm going to make some methamphetamine and I'm going to put gasoline in it, or Coke is going to have gasoline in it. It's like smoking gasoline is not good.
Yeah, definitely not.
So it's kind of similar in that premise, I guess you could say, but yeah, I mean, everything has its negative side effects. Some people say the trade-off between vaping and cigarettes, it's better to smoke it's better to vape than to smoke cigarettes because cigarettes have a more negative connotation to it, like in effects to your body. But vaping just has, even though the vaping itself has actually been around since I think the 50s, it was just never a thing back then. Until about, you know, the late 90s and the early 2000s. That's when it started hitting like Europe area.
Okay.
And with that, it is yeah, dude, it just hasn't been around massively enough to have doctors really say anything or have done enough testing into it to figure it out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm making Irish coffee.
Yeah, I know, it's super loud for a podcast.
We're just under an hour.
So yeah, but yeah, that's some good. We had a few good stories in there, a few little educational thing at the end. You know, we probably will be doing this the next podcast to get some people, you know, some other people involved. I want to get there's at least one more person that I know has some pretty good stories that I would like to get into this podcast because I think it would be really interesting to hear.
Yeah, for sure, we'll work on that.
You know, but other than that, you know, I appreciate everyone. The moral of the story, kids, is
don't do drugs.
You are what you eat.
No, you are what you don't poop out.
You are what doesn't pass through you. Even though the largest orifice in your body, which is actually a hole through you, is your mouth to your anus. So don't forget that. So on that note, this is Rage This, Techo, and Obvious Ninja. We're signing off. Thank you for coming to the Love Shovel podcast. And once again, for those of you that do tune into this every once in a while, I try to do this every Sunday. I will skip holidays if a holiday is on a Sunday. Try to stay tuned. Check it out. I'm still looking at other places to post the podcast, potentially Spotify, maybe iTunes. But I need to find a hoster first. So with that being said and done, thank you very much for those of you guys that are listening into it, coming through and having and enjoying your time. Please feel free. If you got any topics, go ahead. If you want to hear anything that we could discuss, talk about, or whatever, post it in the comments. And feel free to check it out. You know, I'd like to hear from you guys. We do live cast this thing. So if you want to check it out, come check it out. Have a good night.
Take care. Peace.
See ya.